coffee stay black, just like me. Don't need no sugar, don't need no cream.
Yo, what up? Welcome back to the Coffee Black podcast, Black Barista Exchange edition, phase 2, baby. We black again, you know what I'm saying? We had to make the coffee black, but then we had to make it black again. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here with my brother, mi hermano de Colombia, you know what I'm saying? In this joint.
Café negro sin leche y sin azúcar.
Okay, hit the other bar. That's crazy. We've been working on some bars. Y'all stay tuned for that. My brother Mario Dulcey is in the building. How long you been in Memphis so far?
1 week.
1 week.
It has been like, I feel like it's 1 month here.
Yeah.
It has been crazy.
Bruh.
A lot of things we have been doing.
And we're going to get into it because it's a lot, y'all. And we just getting started. This is actually happening, by the way. So everybody who's like become a part of the investment program to help make our social impact programming more sustainable, if you bought merch, if you bought some of the, you know what I'm saying, coffee, any of that, like, bruh, this is like, we're just super grateful. It's crazy to think that this is like something we're doing. We're really doing an international Pan-African Black Barista Exchange program in partnership with the homies at Mir and the homies at Vanderbilt. It's crazy. So let's get into it.
I want to say that keep your thermos full.
Yeah.
Like every moment of the day, like put some black coffee in it.
Come on, bro. Keep it full. Stay full of black. You know what I'm saying? Because once you go black, you don't go back. You feel me? Now that's crazy. Yeah, we could go so many different places, but I want to start here with it, man. Just tell me, like, you've been in Memphis for a week now. How has it been for you so far? Like, what's your experience been like?
It has been amazing. We have been doing different things. I've been doing some brewings around the city. So the first brew that I did was in the anti-gentrification coffee club.
Yeah.
I was in the bar, like doing some pour overs, like making also some latte art coffees, and that's the idea. Like, I'm gonna be here doing the same, but then we moved to Nashville. I was doing some brewings too, and then we were in the cookout last weekend
for 901 Day. Just dropped
so
a new merch.
A lot of things. I don't know which one you want to focus on.
We don't have to focus on any particular, but just like, what's your general feeling? You know what I'm saying, about Memphis so far? It's first time in Tennessee. How you feeling right now?
Like, the most amazing thing that I like about the city is the food. I think all the things that I have been tasting are like so flavory, and they have a lot of taste. Yes, all the things like are very good. I taste the butter pecan ice cream that it was amazing. I had lemon pepper wings. And different things. Like, I have loved them.
Come on, dog. We really here with it. And like, I was like, as we were like teasing the experience, I my little, Instagram lets you ask questions, and I kept asking people like, where we got to eat, y'all? Because like, I feel like a theme of our conversation has been like resisting a lot of what Western society has done with culture, with Black culture, with African culture, with culture from the East in general, or from the global South, however you want to say it. Like, what it tends to Western center culture tends to separate the product from the people, right? And it separates the culture from the community. And so we're going to talk more about this in other ways, but like, the unification of like a more indigenous, a more pre-colonial perspective is like, there is no difference between, not that there is no difference, but there's no separating the land and the people. Like, those two things they're a part of each other. And so like, a part of really celebrating the relationship between the land and the people is food, bruh.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
So, and I can see that even in the food. So they separate ingredients. So when they cook, like, you feel like separate ingredients, and that's what it like the food of Memphis, because you can put all the ingredients together and cook something amazing. That's what I like.
So I wasn't gonna go here, but let's start with that experience, right? We're talking about coffee and food and culture and how those things seem to be separated. So I know currently you are a barista, right? As well as a professor, as well as a coffee farmer,
Yeah.
as well as a roaster, as well as a poet, and many other things, right? Muchas cosas. I'm trying to work on my Spanish. You feel me? My man, get me right. But tell me about your experience in Paris and how that kind of contrast in coffee, right? As a black barista in Paris, with like versus how you kind of seen us approach coffee at the anti-gentrification coffee club. This is not. I don't want to get into a kind of right and wrong conversation, but more about just differences you've noticed and what your experience has been with those differences. So like, how would you describe like the coffee culture in Paris and your experience with that?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that I think all my life I've been trying to put those things that I do together. For example, growing coffee with writing,
Yeah.
and then with creation, and then with research. So like all my life is about like unify those things
Yeah.
and make they matters because
Yeah.
as a producer, I have been forced to make writing matters because we don't pay attention to writing because we have a lot of stories, but those are like oral stories.
Yes.
So I have to make writing matters. But then in Paris, when I was doing my research, I realized that I have to make Colombian coffee matters too. So when you arrive to Paris and you see like the whole landscape of coffee, I was confronted to, okay, what is the position of Colombian coffee in the world universe? And I saw that people were talking about like the quality of the coffee, but not talking about like people behind those coffees. So I know what to grow coffee is about, and then I know what is the experience of being a producer. But then they don't talk too much about that. And
Yeah.
my first thing as a barista was, okay, I want you to know the work that we do in the farms because it's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
I need you to know the big work that we have been doing. We have to wait 4 years until the plant is ready to be harvested.
Yeah.
Then we have to work like for 4 months to harvest and then to ferment the coffee and then to dry the coffee and then to transport it because we have to transport it from the farm to like a local city or a place where we can save it. And that's a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of patience. And I think we have a lot of patience. We are patient. That's one of the values that we have. But we need at the same time that things change and things move. Like that's the kind of the new energy that we are putting on the coffee. So we need transformation of the general industry of the coffee
Yeah.
in Colombia and in the world. That's what I saw in
Yeah.
Paris. Like we need a transformation of the universe of coffee and the way people see the coffee because they just see like one part of the iceberg, but they don't see the big work that people are doing
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah, that's deep, bro. And you were saying like the focus in Paris seems to be a lot about the quality or the perception of quality, really.
Yes,
Not even
perception, of course.
like right, based on notes or based on cupping scores. So if you don't know, because I don't assume I know everybody who watches this isn't necessarily a coffee nerd, right? So like you may not know that coffee gets scored.
Yes.
Right? So like when you're drinking coffee, if you're used to drinking Starbucks or Folgers or whatever, all those coffees in the coffee industry are given a score. Now,
And not just a score, a
Yes.
price for the score. So that's what is important here.
that's a
because-
bar. Yeah. Yeah. And so like that score could be from 0 to 100. I don't think any coffee's ever got 100
No.
or gotten a 0. But most of the coffees that you drink, that most people drink, if you're drinking Starbucks, if you're drinking coffee at the gas station, you're probably drinking coffees anywhere between a 60 and a 70. You know what I'm saying? maybe even a 50. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But specialty coffee, which is kind of like the industry that we're in as Cxffeeblack, the types of cafes that Mario works out in Paris, the type of coffee that his family grows, it are these coffees that are given a score between like 80 and 100. So generally, it's the top 1% of coffee in the world. And while there's nothing wrong with like identifying quality, once you start attaching a price and a value to a person's life based on an arbitrary number, and generally that number is not decided upon by the people who are growing the coffee. They're not involved in the process. It's decided by from somebody from Europe or Australia or Japan or America
Yes.
who's deciding the score. And then people's lives are affected by that, right? And it doesn't even mean good or bad, because I'm sure a lot of you drink coffee every day that you think is good. And you have no idea what the score is. You probably drinking coffee at somebody out here drinking Starbucks and saying this is good. So it doesn't good or bad is it's subjective. But you were saying in Paris there's this hyper focus on these numbers, and you're like, we need to change the way that we think about that.
Of course, those values just measure like let's say like the quality measure that we put on coffee, but they don't measure the impact of coffee on people. They don't measure like the impact on the environment. They don't see the impact of coffee on the region and on the whole industry. So, as an example, Colombia produces like 14 million of bags of 70 kilos in the world.
Yeah.
And we export like 13. So we are exporting all the coffee that we are producing. So we are not consuming a good coffee inside the country. And the thing is that are those countries of the north doing something to make the industry of coffee in Colombia change? And the answer is no, because the money is going to those countries in the north, and the situation for us as a producer is the same.
Yeah.
So I am very worried about this kind of expropriation and exploitation, because they don't do
Gentrification.
anything. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, of these things. And so like, but what's fascinating is that in specialty coffee, the assumption is if the coffee has a high score, if it's super high quality based on whoever the coffee Illuminati who decides what high quality is, then it also is not only culinarily good, but morally good, right? And Ted Fisher, who we met at Vanderbilt, what up, Ted? Talks a lot about that in his book, and like how those things aren't always necessarily true. Just because the coffee gets a higher score and tastes better doesn't mean it's better for the people, right? And
I think it's like soccer.
Yeah.
You know, in soccer you can contract all these excellent players from around the world, from Latin America, from Africa. You just hire them and you put them in those clubs, and they are like big teams.
yeah,
But you know, you don't support like the local teams. You are not supporting the local teams. So
Yeah.
the competence is not like kind of fair.
Yeah.
And then all those players come from Colombia, from Africa, from the south. Like those top players come from like our countries.
yeah.
But they are playing in
In the
their
UK.
league.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. And I think that is a part of like the gentrification of it is like even with hip hop, so much of the music that people love, you think about Memphis, comes from the gutter. It comes from the streets. It comes from the barrio, from the calles. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like the sound though is appropriated, and a version of that is put on stage with Drake. You know what I'm saying? Or it's put on stage
Wow.
with these people. But then like all of the people who created the root, right, is being ignored. But people want to celebrate the fruit, but they want to ignore the root. And then it creates a problem inevitably where there is no fruit to speak of anymore in the future. And I think we have to be wary of that, right? So like your experience, tell us a little bit about like, you know, you're coming from working in your family's farm in Colombia, right? And you're moving to Paris to pursue your academic dreams. And so like education is a way out, I'm assuming, for you to like be able to get a better life, to make more money for your family, and you decide to go work at a
Yes.
coffee shop because Why? Why did you decide
I
to
like
go
the
with?
picture of the tree.
Yeah.
Because you are mentioning like the fruit.
Yeah.
And the root.
Yes.
And you just see the fruit. But
Yes.
sometimes you don't see
The root.
Yes, you
That's
don't
why
see
you
the
gotta
root.
honor
And
the
the
root.
thing is that people see that I am a PhD scholar and then I'm doing research. I'm a barista. I am doing like research on coffee.
Very
but they
swaggy.
don't see where I come from.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when they see where I come from, they
Come on.
realize that wow, like this guy from the countryside in Colombia,
Yeah.
from this area, that's huge. And
Yeah.
then the problem is that I know that we don't have a lot of opportunities, so I need to take
Yeah.
the opportunities that I have to show to the people like the work that we do. So I had the privilege of doing a bachelor degree in like modern languages. So
How many languages you speak?
3.
That's crazy.
Yes.
I got Ebonics, I got English, and Ubby Dubby. If you know what Ubby Dubby, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's crazy.
But the thing is that for me, that's the kind of really a window to show to the people
Yeah.
the work that we do
Come
in
on.
El Tambo,
Yeah.
in South Colombia,
Yeah.
in the Pacific Coast.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of things that you see, that you watch on TV.
Well, okay, so let's get it before we even get to what it has been like and your journey of becoming a barista and a professor in Paris, which is like hella swaggy. You know what I'm saying? But like before we get there, let's start at the beginning, right? What is your family's history? How do you all even get into coffee? And more than that, my question is like, how do we even get Black people in Colombia? Because you've been
Yes.
dropping this number every time we talk about like how many Black people it is in Colombia. So what's that history like? Take us through
Yes.
the journey of how we even before we even get to Paris. How does your family get to Colombia?
Yes.
What is the story and how do y'all get into coffee?
So I like the quote of Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
That says like 70 million and more. Like,
Yeah.
we were 70 million of
Yeah.
Black people from Africa
Yeah.
who were brought to America. And then, like in Colombia, you have this city called Cartagena, that it was a big port of slaves.
Okay, so it's a big slave port.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then from Cartagena, I don't think I think like most of the slaves were brought to the rest of Colombia and the rest of Latin America. So I did my bachelor degree in a city called Popayán, that was one of the most important cities for slavery in Colombia.
Wow.
And this city, it was full of slaver masters and those people, and then had gold mines.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had gold mines, and they need Black people to work on those gold mines.
Wow.
And that's why, like, in this area of Colombia, we have a lot of Black people located in the Pacific coast.
Okay.
And not just in the Pacific coast, but also in the Atlantic coast. So most of Black people in Colombia, we are 10 million Black people in Colombia.
Jeez.
Yes, are located in those two areas, and
And how many people are in Colombia, period?
like 50 million.
So y'all are like a fifth
Yes,
of the
course.
population.
Yeah, 20% of the people.
That's
Yes.
that blows my mind because Black people in America are 13 to 14%. Now in Memphis we're 60%, so shout out Memphis, you know what I'm saying? But like to think about an even Black, like, and I consider America to have a strong Black population within the diaspora, but like there's an even larger group. Like 20% is a lot, bro.
And the thing is that there are a lot of like mixed people.
Of course, I be telling people, I'm mixed. People don't know, like, it's because of the reality of what it is to be a descendant of slaves.
Yeah.
You don't get, ain't nobody 100% out here in the diet. I mean, maybe, but like, I'm like 15, 20, 16% something like European, and it wasn't by choice.
Yes.
We didn't choose, you know what I'm saying? So it's like everybody is a little, you know what I'm saying?
But the thing is that I know that in my family, like my grandmother was a slave.
Yeah.
She used to work in a gold mine, and the name of the master's owner was Montenegro. So all the family is Montenegro.
Montenegro is Black Mountain?
Yes,
Yeah.
Black Hill.
Black
Yeah,
Hill.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we have this small population of 70 families
Yeah.
living in a vereda. We call it vereda.
Mm-hmm.
That is a small region, and we work in the countryside. So we grow up sugarcane. We cultivate some coffee. We work with the land. So we
Yeah.
still have this vocation of working with the land. That is the thing that we learn also from people from Africa. So because they were
That's why they
spared.
brought us.
Yes.
Right? Is because of our ability
Yes.
to work the land. This was skilled
Yes.
labor.
Yes.
And that's wow. It's 20 mil, like not 20 million, 20%, 10 million black
Yes.
people is
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a
so
lot.
you don't see like those peoples in TV. You don't watch like black characters in the telenovelas.
So they're not in the art.
Yeah, they're not in the art.
literature.
Like, but
They in the root.
yes,
But you don't see them in the
yes.
fruit. Hold on now. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So what I wanted to say is that people talk about like mixity and being mestizo, but they are always like negating that black identity,
Wow.
and they are always reclaiming this European identity. They are saying like, okay, we
yeah.
are mixed,
This brother
but
a
we are not.
professor.
We are not black. We are mixed, but we are not black. So we are like descendant from Spain, and a lot of people that move to Spain because you have this kind of dream to come to the motherland, and they reclaim that identity. But the thing is that we, as black, we know that we need to reclaim those black identity. We need to reclaim this African identity.
Wow.
And like that's something that is
that's so powerful.
that
bro.
has happening from slavery. We have heroes like Bencos Viejo. That was one.
Wait, who was that?
Bencos Viejo?
Bancos Behold.
Yeah, Bencos Viejo.
Okay.
Was
Viejo.
Bencos.
Bancos Viejo.
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 Viejo is from Africa.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's an African name.
Yes,
And who was he?
He was an African prince. Yes, he was a prince
Okay.
who was enslaved, and he arrived to Cartagena, and he said, "No, no, no, no! Like we need to liberate my people. We need to liberate our people." And he created what we call palenque, or what we call like a space for maroon people, people who yeah.
We talked about the maroon people
Yeah.
with the Afro Puerto Rican community we
Yes.
connected with last week in Vanderbilt. Shout out to Majestad
Yes,
Negra.
and they were talking about that in the songs. They were saying like, "Vete de aquí, libérate marrón." They were saying things like that.
So let's catch people up. So last week, this is so deep, y'all. This is crazy. So last week we were in Nashville, Cashville, Tennessee, and we got to connect with a group of Afro Puerto Rican artists who do this 400-year-old African-inspired style of music that's Puerto Rican, and it's called bomba. And in bomba, the tradition is that there's multiple African drums and percussive instruments, some instruments from the indigenous community that have been incorporated as well. And it is the lyrics is really like hip hop.
Yeah.
The lyrics have a tradition of resistance, and so we got to see that in person. There's a tradition of dancing. With my cousins grew up doing West African dancing. If you're African American and your family in the 80s did that whole Black Power reclamation movement, then you've seen like or been a part of community events where there's African drumming, West African dancing. They hit the, you know what I'm saying? If you're watching the
Yes.
visual, you can see it. But like, I grew up seeing that as a kid and like trying to understand my connection to this, and then I'm seeing these people from Puerto Rico doing this style of music that's 400 years old, and I'm recognizing like African dance moves I've seen my cousins do, and I'm hearing the patterns, and then I'm watching the brothers talk, and I couldn't understand all the lyrics, but you're saying the lyrics they were saying were speaking about the maroon tradition that also has a connection in Colombia.
Yeah, about Black Pride too, because they
Wow.
were saying like, okay, we need to reclaim.
Even the name,
Yes.
Majestad Negra,
Yes,
Black
of
Majesty,
course.
that's pride
Yes.
right there. Yeah.
And the thing is that what surprised me about this Puerto Rican group was like the familiarity with the sounds that we have in Colombia.
Wow.
So they were playing bomba,
Yeah.
but for my ears, that was like cumbia, that was bullerengue,
yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that was something that is, you
There
know,
were familiar rhythms.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? There were familiar cadences. And I think the reason why it's familiar is because they're coming from the same
Yes,
root.
yes.
So even in hip hop, like they had myself, HD, and Wyra, who you may know from both of those brothers from different things with the Anti-Gentrification Coffee Club or music we produced together came as well. And we kind of fused bomba and Memphis rap and Ethiopian coffee ceremony and Colombian coffee. My man made a special blend on stage. Of
Yes.
like, 2 different coffees. Family reunion coming soon. But it was like, when I was rapping over the bomba, like it was like I'm familiar with some of these cadences, and then they could switch over to cadences that were even more familiar because they was like, some of the rhythms might be like ka 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 and but then while I'm rapping over it, they would switch cadences and go to boom cat boom to boom cat boom to boom, which is like more. I'm literally spitting, but it's like that's more familiar to me. But then it would go back, and it was almost like the lines were being blurred. But so it was a crazy experience to see that and to see how it mirrors the coffee blend that you did of your family's coffee, and then King of the Gucci, which we just imported. By the way, this brother is the second official member of the Black the Black Coffee Supply Chain. Actually, the third official member of the Black Coffee Supply Chain. Shout out to the homies.
We did it for the first time.
Yeah, but your family's car is coffee, 800 kilos. Basically a ton of legal work from Colombia is coming to Memphis. And this brother is already here, and he's brought samples, and you were blending those on stage while we were giving the coffee ceremony, while we were freestyling, while we were listening to Bomba and learning about that history. And like all of these things are so like, it just feels like, yo, is this what Wakanda finna be like? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just what...
You know what is important here is that we are doing something that the colonizer separate. So we are reunifying the people that the colonizer separate, because the colonizer spoke like different language. So the colonizer, Portuguese colonizer, Spanish colonizer, English colonizer, like they separate us. And now we are like trying to connect the things that they separate.
Literally, first literally connecting the seeds that were stolen, right, of the soil, and then separating the sons of the soil that have been taken, like our bloodlines, and getting to, like, you know what I'm saying, rebuild these relationships through music, through food, through the coffees that we're connecting that's grown in these soils and taking on different characteristics. And that is something that, like, it almost feels like, a lot of it feels like, if I'm being honest, it feels like play. Like, it feels like I don't know, if family reunions, right? You meet cousins you've never met before. And not when you're an adult, because it's kind of weird when you're an adult and you're like, I don't know, you're too cool. But when you're a kid, like, the way that you reconnect or build relationships with family is through playing, right? It's through, like, learning different games and learning different rules and, like, making up a new game together. And, like, I feel like that's kind of what's happening in this first part of the Black Barista Exchange program, is like we're learning to play with each other again.
It really feels like Wakanda when the small, like, child go to know like all the family.
Bro, come on, and it's so crazy because, like, I personally am like, why are we the first people to do this? Maybe we're not the first people, because I think part of it is like, this is a part of a tradition that, like, our bloodlines have been doing, because you talk about people in your country's history who have been doing that work. I think about my uncle Muga.
I still arise, Maya Angelou.
Maya Angelou.
I still arise.
Oh, that's a bar. No, we continue to rise, right? Because the rising been happening, but we still rise. Ooh, that's gonna preach. But I'm thinking about, I
am my ancestor dream.
Come on, bro. So Emmanuel Zapata, talk a little bit about that brother. Yeah.
The thing is that I see that my parents did a big work, like keeping the farm. Like, the most important fight that we have in Colombia is the fight for the soil, like for the land. And they did a big work just like keeping the land safe for me to continue growing it.
Yeah.
So, like, I have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I need to keep the land, like, for my family, for my children. And that's the first thing. And then, like, I had the opportunity to go to college and to see what other things I can do with the production of the land.
Of the land.
Yes.
So you're once you have that raw material or the sample, you can manipulate it more, flip it into new ideas, flip it into new concepts, but holding on our relationship to the sample. So I would say it like this, like it's like not selling Grandma's house and not selling the records at Grandma's house. And Chance
and not
the
sell
Rapper,
the neighborhood.
yes, don't even because when the gentrifiers come in, they prey upon your need for immediate money to trade out your long-term assets. But if we can find a way to hold on to it, like a Chance the Rapper just dropped this song, shout out to Chance. He said, if you keep the house in the family, then you can keep the family in the house. You know what I'm saying? And it's like there's a push. And it's not just something that we're seeing in the hood where people are coming trying to buy up all the land. This is a colonial reality of people coming and trying to buy land from Black and indigenous communities. And in doing so, removing sometimes the only real inheritance that we have. And especially now where there's more access to education, there's more access to the market through the internet, there's more access to opportunities. That land oftentimes can be a crucial piece, keeping that house. It's such a crucial piece.
Keep that farm.
Keep the farm. Yes, keep the plants on the farm. You know what I'm saying? Like keeping the crops that are there is extremely important because once you get the opportunity to really go to the market and to collaborate, like that is the resource that we have that can't be taken away. You know what I'm saying?
And the thing is that even if I go to college, even if I do a PhD, I want to move back to my land to continue like growing coffee.
Which is not an easy thing. Right?
Yes, of
like
course.
there's risk involved.
Yes.
And saying I'm going to leave. Like this is so like diasporical, but I just feel like there's so many parallels here. But you're like, man, I'm going to leave, right? I have to be able to go explore, but we can't sell what we have because I'm trying to come back and bring these resources that have been stolen or extracted from our people, the opportunities back to the land.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the fruits can go abroad, but the roots are still there.
Yes, bro. And
So-
if you have to maintain the roots so that way you can have something to reconnect to, and that's where you really get to enjoy the fruit of your labor. You know what I'm saying?
And that's where, for example, like my farm is not just my farm. It's the farm of my uncles, the farm of my, my aunties. We have this land. We are a whole like family. The
Which I got
Montenegro
to meet
family.
Yes, I got
So-
to meet your aunties on FaceTime.
Yes.
They had the braids in tight. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Tia with the braids on correct, bro.
And the thing is that
fire.
all my family lives there.
Yeah.
So I need to go to other place to learn, how to transform coffee, how to learn to roast coffee, and then to come back to show people that we are able to produce and we are able to roast in the origin.
Which is, can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
Because not only is your family growing coffee at origin, but you guys are really vertically integrating, right? So it's not just the production of the raw materials, but y'all are actually doing value addition, which if you're watching is like a term to basically manipulate the raw materials to be able to create the things that can be more easily consumed. So if I hand you a coffee cherry, you probably don't know what to do with it. If I hand you a nugget of gold, you probably don't know what to do with it. But if it's a chain, you know what to do with it. If it's
We produce gold.
that's a bar. Yeah,
Yes.
we got to talk about that.
The thing.
But like you're doing value addition, and you started a cafe, like in the barrio, in the neighborhood, where people can not taste the coffee that you grew and then your family roasted,
Yes.
which is like that's not normal, right? Like
Yes.
that's not everybody ain't doing that.
Yeah, my circular moment was when I took a machine, I took like the roasted coffee, and I gave it to my people, to my neighbors, to my uncles, to my aunties, because we in the countryside sometimes we are not able to taste the coffee that we produce.
Which is crazy. That's like I done made the song, but I can't dance to it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like that's insane.
And for a lot of like generations, the story was like the same. So you can be a good producer, you can be an excellent producer, but you are never thought to be a roaster. You are never thought to be a barista. You are never thought to be like
A
an
researcher.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
a researcher
Yeah.
on coffee. So what we are doing is trying to connect all those elements of the coffee industry to make like something from us, like from us to the people,
Yeah.
but really from us. We
So
need
you
to
can
take
enjoy
care.
the fruit of your labor.
Yes, so we need to take care of the product in order to say like, okay, like that's our production, that's our roasting, that's our brewing, and if we do that, I think that we are like making the circle, like the whole circle,
Wow.
and making people enjoy something in origin, you know, because we are always taught to give the best of us to others and not to enjoy. And not, and when I learned about like coffee, my first thought was like, we need to enjoy that in
Yeah.
origin.
Yeah.
So we need to roast our own coffee. We need to, you know,
Wow.
we need to do it by ourselves.
I think that makes this cup of coffee like so much more special to me because it's coffee that your family grew. It's coffee that your family roasted and that you brewed. You know what I'm saying?
This morning,
This morning at the coffee club. By the way, come through 7:30 to 11 o'clock every day at the coffee club this week
Yes.
if you want to try it. Actually, when this drops, it'll be the following week, but maybe we'll still be here. Anyway, moving on. But there is a class happening on Saturday, so slide through to that because he'll be doing like a tasting and talking about his favorite way to brew. But I think that's just such a revolutionary concept of like not needing sugar and cream to be valuable or to be palatable, but to saying like what we have been given on our own by the creator are things that deserve to be enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? As in our context, in our space, without needing someone else to come and recontextualize it. But we can provide the context ourselves.
when we talk about to enjoy, like we deserve to enjoy the fruit, our labor,
Yeah.
is that we need and we deserve to enjoy the sweetness of the coffee.
Come on, the
'Cause-
Dulce.
Yeah, the
Come
dulce.
on, Mario Dulcey with the Dulce. Yeah, come on, bro.
That's funny because yeah. But the thing is that we deserve to enjoy the sweetness and not the bitterness. And for a lot of people, it's a bitter like flavor to
Yes.
work with coffee because it's hard, because you are not well paid, because you want to sell your farm, because you want to move to the city.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about you don't want to talk about coffee.
Yeah.
Because coffee is like a lot of work. Like I was told to go to the city to get a job and to forget
Go be in IT.
my coffee,
Yeah.
like my coffee farm. And we were about to sell the farm when I started this company.
Wow.
So that was like, okay, I told my parents I want to work with coffee, and they were like, oh no, you know that coffee is not well paid. It's not worthy.
Wow.
And I was like, it is. And it took me like 3 years to combine them. That is a good thing. And the problem is not us. The problem is not the coffee. The problem is not the people. The problem is that what we have been taught, what we have been told, and I decided to change that way of thinking in order to say like, oh, like coffee can be an opportunity if we do the whole cycle. So let's do a little bit more of the work that we do every day, because we do a lot of work. We are so patient. We wait for 4 years, and let's do a little bit more in order to roast this coffee, to sell like the final product to the people, so we can enjoy the fruit of the labor, like the sweetness, not the bitterness.
This hey man, I got a lot of emotions right now listening to you talk about this. It just reminds me of like my family, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of our relationship to the land has been bitter, you know. And think about my grandmother picking 400 pounds of cotton a day, my mom growing up in that household, and like this legacy of my grandfather, my great grandfather on my father's side having to run away from the land that they had to leave their land because of like jealousy and people wanting to take it from them and their life being in danger, which is how we got to Memphis. And like it's been such a crazy thing because I feel like in a lot of ways, like my relationship with the land had to be restored, and coffee has been a big part of reconnecting me to the land because, like, I remember going to my grandmother's farm in Alabama as a kid, and like they're growing corn, they're growing watermelon, they're growing it's a very small, it's like 1 acre of land. It's really just food for them, and like as a kid growing up in the city, not really liking to go to the countryside, not really liking to go to the land. I love my grandparents, but I miss having cable TV or having internet or whatever, and like getting out there. Like I feel like the work God has done in me a lot is like decolonizing my mind and learning to reappreciate what's there. And going the first time I went to Africa, which was for coffee, and it was in Africa, and we were 2021. We did the whole Cxffeeblack to Africa documentary, and I remember seeing like how gorgeous it was, and being like, yo, they really took us from this. And then not only did they take us from this, but then they took the sweetness of this and our ability to remember how sweet the land is supposed to be, right? And how sweet the fruit of our labor is supposed to be. And then you begin to only associate the burnt, bitter, astringent, dark reality or flavor profile or notes of this thing with coffee or cotton or any of these colonial crops, and you begin to hate it. You begin, and in doing so, in a lot of ways, you begin to hate yourself. You know what I'm saying? You begin to despise your own roots and desire someone else's fruits. Like, oh, well, maybe if I become whatever I'm seeing people do in Europe, or what, go into IT or a doctor or a lawyer, and there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But I was just like, you don't have to lose your relationship to the land. And I think so much of who we are is tied up in the land. And like you can only find that part of yourself by being regrafted into those roots. And that's what like becoming an Abagada for me and my wife honorarily like was almost like being blessed by these elders and this family I have been stripped away from, and them saying, you are a part of us again. Like, and you have a job to do. You have a role here in your relationship to the land. And hearing you guys talk about that, like, it's just like, man, this cup of coffee I'm drinking is like literally
the fruit of the land. Like,
yeah. And it's like, and so are we, right? Like, it's not just these things that produce, but like our relationship to the land and the relationship to the things that the land produces pre-colonization were circular. They were things that were a dance and spoke into each other. And the way that we enjoyed the land caused us to dance. It called, like, because it's so good, you might hop up and shout or dance or sing or create instruments. And I think about like Gutu Abera in his interview on the Cxffeeblack to Africa. He was like, man, honestly, bro, like in my town, if you don't, in your song, your music, and your lyrics, if you're not talking about coffee in the lyrics, folks not gonna listen to you.
Yes.
And like then watching the Bunakala ceremony and seeing people dance and shout and pray and call and response and, you know what I'm saying, do each other's hair and like all these things happening in the context of like this harvest. But you think about what is a harvest, it is a party, right? Like you're celebrating so much work, and that creates songs and music and foods and like all these things.
All that you are describing is culture. And culture is supposed to be something that is like linked to the soil, to the land.
Break it down.
That's
because you were talking about like and this is why the etymology piece is here important. So talk about French and like what the word for
like
farming.
not just French, because all the words that all the activities that you are being describing are linked to culture, and culture is supposed to be the word who describe like the activity of working with the land.
Okay, break it down. So give me the
in French, we say culture, like culture. It's the same word for cultivate, like to
cultivate.
Yes.
Wow, agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we use like agriculture in Spanish, agricultura, cultura. You know, those are like words who recall the same origin, the same spirit that is in the land. And you are describing music, you are describing literature, and those all things are part of the culture,
The cultura.
la
That's
cultura.
our cultura.
And the thing is
That's
that
crazy.
the fight for culture is the same that the fight for the land.
Yes.
And in my
You cannot separate the two.
you cannot separate.
Because a fight for the culture without a fight for la cultura is a fight that is fruit separated from its root. And
Of
what happens
course.
when you separate the fruit from the root? Right? Eventually it dies.
Yes.
It's no longer nourished. And I think we see that so often in these movements or in these musical cultural pieces where people get really excited about a piece of art or a song or an idea, but it's not rooted literally in like the power of the land and the economic security of the land and the humility that the land brings you
Yes.
and the need for each other and how that kills ego because you're relying upon each other, right? All these things are missing, and so the fruit dries up. And then a new generation comes up, what we're going to try to do is separate it from the root. And for me, that's why it was so important as we're building Coffee Black
Yes.
and anti-gentrification. It's like, we cannot do this work in my community, like yesterday, right? Like a young man got shot in my community, right? And part of what I think is so sad and why we see this is because our youth, our people are not rooted in a lot of ways, bro.
and our people are displaced.
Yes.
Like every day.
Yes.
So because we are displaced, we don't have a land, but we don't have a culture.
Yes.
So we need to take back first the
Culture.
land
Yes.
to make the culture stay, and that's the same fight that we have in Colombia. So the first fight, the most important fight that we have, is the fight for land, because we need the land to, cultivate, to
Yes.
culture,
Yes.
cultivar la cultura.
Yes.
We need the land to put
Come on, bro.
the cultura
Yeah.
to work, and then the result of the cultura go back to the land.
Come on,
because
bro.
the fruit of the labor
Yes.
help that to the land to keep resisting, to keep moving.
The nutrients in the fruit are supposed to flow
Yes.
back into the
Yes.
root. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why we talk about make this all black supply chain
Yes.
circular.
Yes.
Because we want that the result of the fruit of labor
Yeah.
come back to the land.
Yeah.
And then it
Come on, and it continues to flow.
Yes.
And when we talked about this, even in America, so little of the money of the fruit that is produced in the Black American community comes back to the root of our community, just in the country. So then you look at globally, economically, how much of the money from our cultura, from our culture, from whether music, sports, soccer, football, baseball, basketball, all this money that these athletes make, right? That they're being paid. How much of the money from our culture, from the fruit of our culture, comes back to the root of our
Yes.
culture, right? And the root really is where you have the protection, because that allows you to be able to withstand the storms that are going to come against us. It allows you to be able to withstand because there's always going to be the root that's going to be firmly planted. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at these experiences where, for instance, all these soccer
Yes.
players are experiencing racism, right?
course.
Even though people love the fruit of their labor, they love the oh wow, you're so talented, we want you to play, but they're still experiencing danger because they are not, and part of it is because they're alone. You know what I'm saying? You're by yourself on this team, and you're not with your cousins and your aunties and them, and your uncles and them, and your brothers and them who can pull up and be like, nah, you're not finna treat my son like that. You're not finna treat my family like that. And so it's there's a separation, and I think the goal of the all black supply chain is to be able
to reconnect.
at the heart to bring because we need each other. You know what I'm saying? To be able to make it. And there's a quote, I can't say it exactly, but it's it's a quote that said, if you're here, put it on the screen, Tom. You know what I'm saying? When you do it. But if you're here to be able to, because you're here to save me, I don't need your help. But if you're here because our liberation is
Yes.
mutually tied together, then I welcome you to work
I
with
need
me.
you need me. In Colombia we say soy porque somos. I am because we are.
Okay, in the church we say, I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive. It is His will that every need be be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to serve. And he said, I need you, you need me. But it's like a call and response that like we
Yes.
are part of a larger body.
And that's
you know
what our African ancestors taught us, because
Yeah.
they say like the Holy Spirit of Ubuntu is
Ah,
that, like
yeah.
I am because we are,
Yeah.
soy porque somos.
Come on, bro.
And that's something
How do you
that
say it?
soy,
Soy.
porque somos.
Porque somos.
And that's Ubuntu.
Wow.
And that's what we are trying to do, because
Wow.
we are doing a big featuring
Come on.
of producer and roasters. Like, you are going to help us.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And we are going to make all the black supply chain works.
Bro, and it's miss you honestly, bro. You don't even know. Like, you know, Mario's been staying at our house, and like my kids are just super excited to get to meet you, and like they want to visit Colombia now, and like and it reminds me of my first time in Africa, right, with Mike Memo and Ture Waji, and like FaceTiming my family, and like feeling like I'm being, because a lot of it was, bro, like being in America as a Black American, even though I grew up in a majority Black city, there's a feeling of always being alone.
Yes.
Of always being a minority. And when you go to Africa and you see so many Black people, everyone is Black. And like and then to know that this industry being Black in coffee is even worse, because there's like even less Black people there. You know what I'm saying? And it's just one tiny drop of Black coffee in a sea of sugar.
Yes.
And not that there's like it's just like this feeling internally of like I've never had necessarily openly racist experiences in the coffee industry that I'm gonna talk about on camera anyway. But like I have had like just the feeling of being isolated.
But just the fact that
Yeah.
I am being the only black scholar in every university where I have been, that show that the system doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What was that like for you, being the only Black scholar or the only Black barista? I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What was that like?
I'm
for
gonna
you?
say, like, in the bachelor degree, we were two.
Wow.
One woman, one man.
Out of how many?
Out of 52. Yes.
Crazy.
Then in the master, I was the only one.
Wow.
And then doing the PhD, the only one.
Wow.
And the thing is that when I had this experience of an internship, I went to a black school in Washington.
Yeah.
And I
What
was
school?
feeling like Howard.
Okay, shout
Yes.
out Howard.
Yes.
HBCU, yes, sir.
HU, you know.
Yeah, hey, come on, bro. Yeah.
But the thing is that for me, that was like feeling at home, because there were like black scholars from around the world, from República Dominicana, you know, from Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
from Nigeria, from Senegal,
Wow.
from around the world. And the
Wow.
thing is that was the first time I was not the minority.
Wow.
So that experience for me, that was very powerful, because you know that you have like brothers around the world,
Yeah,
and
bro.
that you have to connect with them,
Yes.
and you have to work with them.
Yes.
So-
yes.
So at that moment, like I was working with the coffee company, and that's how I met a friend from Bahamas who told me like, okay, there is Bartholomew doing this program about like making coffee black again, and I told like, that's crazy. I want to work with
But
him.
that happened at Howard.
Yes.
Wow.
And the thing is that I saw you as a model of what we can build in Colombia in terms of build this black pride, build that black solidarity in terms of not just coffee, but culture, the music, but like big relationships.
Wow.
And that's culture. We are talking
Wow.
about culture.
Wow.
Because we come from the same land in Colombia.
Yeah.
But then when we move to the cities, you decide to be a musician.
Yeah.
You decide to be, I don't know, a coffee roaster. So you are separated by the society. You know?
Yeah.
And the most important thing that you can do it because you are in this kind of social ascension
Yeah.
with like different people, like mixed people,
Wow.
white people.
Wow.
So you end up by being the only black person of your group.
Wow.
And that's like the most important thing that you can do
Yeah.
in Colombia. You can do it being alone.
Wow. So this almost like being alone.
Being alone
becomes
is the
the
negation
model. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like the African ancestor message, because you are separate.
Yeah.
Being alone.
Well, it's like the quote says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You know what I'm saying? And like that proverb is so powerful.
And I want to work with my people. I've been working on coffee shops in Paris,
Yeah.
where I am the only black barista.
Wow.
I am the only person like talking about like African American literature, about Afro Colombian literature, and they are like, okay, good, but you know, you have to go inside the message and read what the message is about, and the message in African American literature and Afro Colombian literature is about reunion.
Yeah,
it's about
a
unifying people.
Reunion.
Yes,
yeah, a family reunion. Yeah,
all what I read, all what I do is about unifying.
Bro, literally my church is fasting and praying right now about unity. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like this week, because the pastor was like, man, this is something that is a choice. Unity is a command. It is something that you have to choose to do. It's not something that just happens by osmosis. You have to unify. That is a choice. And even with our coffee, right? Like it is a choice for us to say we want to choose to purchase coffees from our diaspora, from our family, in order to intentionally unify, not just symbolically, but economically, right? And to be able to say, like, we want to choose to tie up our futures together because we know that our histories are already tied together, right? And so, like, there's a choice there. And for you, like, you know, it was a choice for you to choose to be a part of the Black Barista Exchange program.
Of course.
Like, so take us to Howard. You're there. You just heard about this weird dude named Bartholomew and Cxffeeblack, which is like, shout out to whoever connected you at Harvard. You know what I'm saying? At Howard. But like, what made you choose to want to be a part of this? You know what I'm saying?
Because when you are in Europe, when you are in the middle of the Western world, and before that, like before going to Europe, before going to France, I knew what the experience was about. But when you discover like all the problems, all the divisions that they create, all the kind of separations, you realize that absolutely that's not the place where you want to live. That's not the vibe that you want to create. That's not the space that you want to create for your children.
Yeah.
And you discover that, of course, you need to work with your people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they have nothing to offer to the world but just separation, just division. And that I don't want to separate my people. So you want to create some connections, long-term relationship with the people. So for the next time, for the next generation, they are not the only one on the classroom. They are not the one. They are not the only one in the university. They are not the only black professors talking about like Afro-Colombian literature or whatever. So I had to make sure that they are not the only one. Like next time.
Come on. And if I don't know if we talk about this a lot, but it was like, to me, part of the reason of making the Black Barista Exchange program or an all-black supply chain or even going to Africa for the first time, it wasn't for me, it was for my children. It was for Maurice and for Thurgood and for Freeman. And wanting them, even if I fail.
I don't have yet, but I have a niece.
Hey.
And I have,
ladies. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Hop in the comments. But, no.
761 National Street.
I thought you were about to drop the digits. I was like, okay, come to anti-gentrification coffee club. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have coffee dates. But no, it was for my children, bro. And it was like, and it was in 2020. You know what I'm saying? And while I'm watching, the whole world watched George Floyd be assassinated, and and it wasn't just him. It was like so many. Since we've been here in this country, you just like and then it was the pandemic. And I was just like, bro, like this country might fall down. And I don't want my kids to be stuck here in a dystopian future where their only hope is that like the people with power in this country choose to show them mercy. I want my children to be in a world where people want to love them, where they see them as beautiful inherently and don't have to be convinced
Yes.
or protested against or coiled into seeing them as a human made in the image of God, but where they are seen inherently already as such, where they don't need to have sugar and cream added to be palatable or even considered, but their blackness, their uniqueness, their humanity is seen as valuable inherently.
Yes.
And that's why I was like, I want to connect with people who already believe that.
Yes.
I don't want to have to convince you.
And at that moment, we were saying like Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
But the thing is that we have been saying that like from years
For so
on
long.
years
For so
on
long.
years. And in
Yeah.
Colombia, like we have been saying that for years and years and years.
Yes.
And we have been saying like indigenous like lives matter.
Matter. Yeah. Come
so
on, bro.
the thing is that
Yeah.
we have been saying like all like the people who work in the
root.
in the root like matters.
Yes.
But the thing is that we don't have like screens, we don't have cameras
Yeah.
that record what is happening on the countryside. So there are a lot of things that are happening in those places that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
And we need to pay attention to that. We need
Come
to
on,
pay
bro.
attention to the good things.
Yeah.
But principally to the things that could allow us to change the situations.
Yes, bro. Yeah, and you talk about that. I mean, like, when we think about building, an all-black supply chain, or we think about, putting black culture and agriculture, cultura, period, cultures, right, cultivars together, right? We gotta do a song or something like that. That's a crazy.
Yes.
That's gotta cook. I honestly go to sample from like the coffee farmers in Ethiopia with the bump. We might have to make that the name of the song. Okay. Anyway, yeah, this got to be a culture. We need you on the. Anyway, all right. So back to what we were saying. We are the culture. That's crazy.
Yes.
Shout out to Prop. But back to what we were saying. Like, what is your hope for how these partnerships that we're building?
Yes.
Right. And even as we think about the future, like our other coffee cousins coming from Ethiopia and Rwanda, what is your hope for what changes because of what we're doing right now?
So my vision is like the same. Look, we deserve to enjoy the fruit of our labor.
Yeah.
And how we do that, like we are used to be producers,
Yes.
but we need to be like more than producers. We need like to be consumers.
Yeah.
And we need to receive the fruit of the labor. And
Yes.
how we do that?
Come on.
Like by creating more spaces for people to participate in the coffee industry. So not
Wow.
just to produce,
Yeah.
not just creators,
Yeah.
but we need to be able to have like all the conditions to be like roasters, to be baristas,
Yes.
to be to have like a big industry, and then that can help us,
Yeah.
to be farmers on at the same time roasters, because
Yes.
that was supposed like
When you look at the indigenous model in Ethiopia, the black women were growing these coffee plants and roasting this coffee and preparing and serving
Yes.
it in the black community as well. Like, you have men who are participating in the farming process as well. But it's actually really interesting that it is black women who are centering it. But the first way to consume coffee was that the farmers, of course, who are in the wild, it's not just a farm, right? It's more of like cultura, like it's like the land. But the people who are receiving the fruit from the land are also roasting it, are also brewing it, right?
Yes.
And then there's even the nature of like the beautiful thing about every community in Ethiopia. What we've been taught is like every community almost has a different towns have different kinds of brewing, different kinds of brewers, a different jebana. So like the size, the bottom may be bigger, the spout may be taller, and that's a choice. That's a scientific choice because they think it's producing a better brew. So we say if you brew better, you do better. But literally, like every community was like low key competitive, and then as a part of the family unit being built is like a competitive nature of my coffee fire. So this is also a part of how we even unify because I'm competitively creating this for you in the context of it being not just grown and cupped and tasted and decided, but we are deciding it, and this is so fire you should marry me
And-
type beat. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like that's different than like
Yes.
the model of like what you're saying, the separation of the agriculture and the culture.
And how I see the future is like an intersection of all the actors. So we need like more Black Colombian producer, but we need more Black Colombian roasters, Black
Yeah.
Colombian baristas, and those people working
Together.
together, but at the same time like working with all the rest of the actors. So we need to create intersections where the cultura,
Yes.
la cultura
Yeah,
gets
bro.
reunified.
Come on,
I
bro.
see like this possibility of doing that with coffee.
Wow.
So we can find this intersection between coffee, culture, and people. And I see that we can connect all these elements. We can connect research. We need more coffee research. We need Black coffee research. We need Black people doing research.
Yeah, we need-
the resources. We need their money.
We need to see African communities and scientists researching their own indigenous species and not people from other communities outside in Europe or
That's
Australia
neocolonization.
just coming and then kind of stripping these resources, determining their value outside, which doesn't mean that there isn't room for expertise or collaboration from outside communities. That's not the point. The point is that like the people whose indigenous practices have preserved the land are able to participate in the fruit of their labor, and all the value isn't being exported for some other company to copyright this genetic varietal or species and then sell it back to the farmer at a ridiculous price.
And you know why?
Yeah.
The answer is why. Because
Well, hold up. So actually, this is this is Stenophila, which is one of the
Okay.
species
Okay.
in Sierra Leone
Okay.
that is in West Africa that's indigenous that caused
the
us to
future
start.
of coffee.
Yes, bro. Some people are saying this is the species that will replace Arabica, but I'm like, but will we replace it with the same story and the same sins that from which Arabica was stolen with? You know what I'm saying? Like, or are we going to learn a lesson about how that always produces instability? You know what I'm saying?
And the thing is that we need to respect the knowledge of the people.
Yes.
Because they have been working years and years and years
Yes.
with those plants.
Yes, bro.
And the thing is that I do science too. I'm a PhD scholar.
That's
yes.
crazy. Yeah, for sure.
But I know that it takes time. It's not just 3 years of PhD.
Yes.
Who make that you to science.
Yeah.
But it's years on years
Yeah.
of knowledge, and knowledge not just from you, but the knowledge of the other generations.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that I have been doing this research on coffee, but I've been doing like coffee productions for 28 years. I don't have any certification of the SCCA.
Yeah, the SCA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I know a lot
Come on.
about coffee production.
Yes.
I know a lot about
Yeah.
what, how the plants behave.
Yes.
I myself I've been like picking up coffee or planting coffee or taking care of the plants, and we know how to do it.
Yeah.
The thing is that I cannot admit that other people like teach me how to do it if my people already know how to do it. That's
Yeah.
the kind of
Yeah.
thing that we need to change. So first you need to respect the knowledge of the people,
Yeah.
and then you listen to them, and then of course we can collaborate,
But it's
from equality, from equal positions.
as equal actors, and it reminds me
course.
of our experience with these Afro Puerto Rican artists in Nashville at Vanderbilt. The first thing we did was listen.
Yes.
The first night we met, I didn't come in playing beats. Hey, this one we from Memphis, man. You know what I'm saying? I came in and listened. Because I like the first thing you know as a rapper is you gotta catch the beat. I'm not gonna just start talking out the side of my mouth if I don't know what the patterns and rhythms that have already been established are. And then once I understand that, I can articulate my own unique space within the established relationship and cadence and context. So it's like, but I feel like the way coffee research oftentimes happens and barista innovation happens is somebody just wow, hey, this is it's like you've ignored thousands of years of history, and by doing so, you have erased that history.
Yes.
Right? Because of the position and power that people operating with these positions of power exist in now in specialty coffee. And I'm like, it's not that you can't, when I say you, whoever is not from these communities, it's not that you don't have a voice, it's that you should not shout over the people who have been speaking for thousands of years. Listen, you might find that you enjoy the notes if you take the time to savor it on your palate before. So it's not no sugar, no cream forever. It's just sip it first before you decide, so you can have a better understanding of what the conversation is, what are the melodies to which you can then harmonize with.
And
you know
they
what I'm saying?
take me to another conversation that is like, okay, the things that we are doing in the production of like this new wave of coffee is like, it's not about like listening to the flavors. That the natural flavors of the soil. But we are listening to what the market is saying. So we are putting some new flavors that don't belong to the land, and we are infusing some coffees to, you know, to adapt our coffees to what they are saying. And that's important because you are not listening to the flavors, to the natural flavors of the land. And then it's not just about that, but you are taking like some different varieties from other countries, from Africa. You are taking Sudan Rume, you are taking those varieties, and you are putting them in Colombia. You are putting them in our territory, and you are not listening to, you know, the natural development of the nature.
And my man went to the Sudan roommate. That's crazy. But I feel you in that, because so much of that has happened without respect or honor for the root from which this fruit is derived. And it's like, what's happening here? I grew up in Memphis in America. You grew up in Colombia. We come from different lands, but when we met, we listened to each other.
And when you went to the Colombian restaurant, you heard you listened to me, and you said like, okay, what do you recommend me? And you listen to me, and I suggest you a lot of different flavors.
Come on, bro.
And
I think
I'm listening to you.
And I think that's part of when I look at the way that Africa's coffee biodiversity is treated. It's not treated as a thing where we're going to listen to the people who preserve these and build a collaboration. It's not a musical featuring or collaboration where I add some, you add some, we work together and we share in the royalties. We share in the fruit. It's you don't know what to do with that. Give it to me. I'm going to go take it over here to these other scientists, and we really know what to do with it, and we're going to blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that is not sustainable, one, right? So let's just talk about sustainability. If you want it to still be here, that's not how you do it. We have a lot of historical and scientific evidence that taking something from the people without being in collaboration with them and spreading it around the world, which is how coffee got here, which is how black people got here all around the world, is not sustainable. It does not produce good fruit. But also, it's boring. Like, that is the least. If I would have we went to El Sabor Latino. If we went to this restaurant, me not knowing the culture, and if I did not listen to the culture and I just picked a hamburger, which was my son picked, but I just ordered it instead of saying, tell me what's good because I need you. And you, like, I need you to understand, to be able to better appreciate, to have a better culinary experience. I need to be humble and to listen. I would have missed out on everything.
And you taste the lulo juice, and you taste the sur juice, and it was incredible.
What did you say? The wana wana?
Wana.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was sour sop, but I was like, this bussin', bro.
Yes, and the thing is that I see like people in the coffee industry, like people from the Western world, from Europe, saying to the producers of Colombia, to the producer of Africa, saying like, you need to do this fermentation. You need to do that milling process. You have to do that. But fermentation, what is fermentation about? Like, fermentation is about like the microorganisms that are around in the nature. So the natural, bacteria that are in the microorganism.
Cultures.
Not yes.
Come on, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's about respecting the nature, not putting, some different laws, some different bacteria, some different. It's about like listening to what the coffee is telling to you.
That's powerful, bro. And I think that is a great way to end this conversation. Is like that is the original indigenous belief that coffee is a gift from God and it is meant to bring us into harmony with what God had already established. That it was bunafnagea hendabina. Where there is coffee, there must also be peace. So the coffee sets the standard in a lot of ways, and we have to, in our relationships to the land and to each other, rise to meet the peace that exists in the cup. And it's a reminder, it's a barometric, right? It's a measure of peace from God that is inherently visible due to our senses. We can detect the peace that exists in the cup. Oftentimes we ignore the peace that does not exist outside of it. And we live in cognitive dissonance. But it's a reminder, it's an opportunity to be in harmony. Right? It's my understanding of what has been taught to us by, the Abagadas and the Adasinkes, that there should be justice from the Adasinkes, that there should be peace with the land, peace with each other, which is why, like, even in preparing Bunakala, which was the original coffee ceremony, there's so much prayer for peace to begin to set our hearts to expect it. And then it's almost like communion at church, you know what I'm saying? Like, coffee is also a way to bring peace between people when it isn't there. So if you're not in peace with each other, the coffee share wouldn't be done, and the two people would sit and discuss to be in peace with each other. And I feel like we need a coffee ceremony between the people of the root and the people who have taken their fruit, and to be able to reestablish that equal footing of being in peace. And I think that's what the planet needs, and that's what I feel like Coffee Black, our heart is to help facilitate that. You know what I'm saying?
I need to say it again. Bunav nage ndida vina.
Yes.
Que el café traiga paz a tu hogar y a tu familia. We can say it.
That's a bar.
In English.
Yeah.
In the Oromo language.
Yes.
In Spanish.
Yes.
We can say it like writing papers.
Come on.
We can do podcasts.
Come on.
We can do documentaries.
We can make a rap. You know
we
what
can
I'm saying?
make rap.
We can make some clothes.
But the thing is that you understand the message.
Yeah.
You need to understand the message.
Yeah.
And you need to listen, and you need to be like conscious about what this thing is. And this is about culture.
Yes. Come on, bro. Culture, agriculture, cultivars, cultura, cultures. You know what I'm saying? With bacteria, it's like all of it is there. I think the notes are there from the creator. It's up to us to enhance our palates to be able to perceive them.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Thank you for joining me, brother.
Yes, thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Hey, we got a special collaboration coming soon. We dropping the family reunion capsule collection. Do not sleep. This junk finna be crazy. Pull up in Memphis if you're trying to be a part of it, and we'll have some joints that we bringing around the country, because we'll be stopping to meet once the rest of our cousins get here from Ethiopia and Rwanda. We're going to be doing a tour throughout some other parts of the country, ending in Raleigh with the big homie Lynn Butler at Black and White.
Family reunion is about love, and it's about brotherhood.
Yes.
So stay tuned.
Keep that coffee black.
Yes. Black again, black again.
Black again. Yes, sir. That was amazing, brother.
Just like me, don't need no sugar, don't need no cream. Coffee stay black, just like me. Black like me, 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 black like